Welcome back to the 9 News Business Buzz. I'm Ryan Frazier, 9 News business expert. If you watch the news, you might be worried about our power grid. We hear constantly about aging infrastructure, the threat of rolling blackouts, and fears that massive new AI data centers are going to suck up all of our electricity. But behind the scenes, the energy industry is fighting back. They're deploying new tech like massive smart batteries and independent microgrids designed to specifically protect everyday consumers and keep our lights on. Joining me to explain how this work is being done is Dustin Smith, General Manager of Gray Snow Green Energy and the Executive Director of SolarTAC. Dustin, welcome on the program.
Thank you for having me.
This is one of those technical topics, Dustin, that sometimes people are like, well, power grids and microgrids and smart batteries and command and control. What are you talking about, right? The bottom line, right, is the energy industry is deploying advanced things like smart batteries and these microgrids to help assure people that everyday consumers can keep their lights on, whether it be extreme weather events or massive corporate AI data centers, whether you live in isolated communities or rural parts of Colorado. Help us understand, if you can, what's behind this shift? Why are more companies moving away from just generating power to focusing heavily on smart batteries and controlling where and when the power goes?
Right. And Ryan, the most important thing is really about consistency and stability and reliability, right? We all got up this morning, we turned on the light switch, and our lights came on. That's what we're all expecting every day. And to maintain that is critical, because that's what keeps our costs down, it's what keeps business moving, and that sort of thing. It's really exciting what's happening in our industry with renewables, because it's no longer just about generating an electron and not burning something to do that, right? That's a great piece, but it's only a small piece of the overall value that I think we can bring to the table. These technologies are really helping us really advance what we can do, working with all of these new businesses, new demands, and that sort of thing, to achieve the consistency and the stability we're looking for. The three things that really help us do that are distributing the power itself, the generation. So we're moving the generation closer to the point of use. It's about storage, batteries. It's about having the technology to store the power and use it when we need it. And there's all sorts of real neat value features and problem solving that comes from storage. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the command and control. It's about not only just managing these multiple sources, getting power from multiple places and managing that power generation, but also managing the use at the point of use as well.
You know, most people may not realize what a power grid even is, and that, you know, it's very important to ultimately getting energy to and from their homes and to and from their businesses, let alone what a microgrid is. And a microgrid isn't just a green energy experiment. It usually combines natural gas, solar, and batteries to create, you know, a more reliable, if you will, and localized power system, as you were explaining earlier, Dustin. Talk to us a little bit about how these independent microgrids act as a safety net for the rest of us when the main grid gets stressed.
Right, so the two big challenges that we see are, you know, there's very small events that create spikes in the voltage and those kinds of technical problems that can cause problems on a grid trying to protect itself. Plus we have the supply, right? And you only have so much power. As you drive up demand, that can increase costs. These technologies really help us manage those things so that we can do the things we want to do without creating, you know, either havoc on the grid from a technical perspective and or creating cost increases.
Now, and these energy technology advancements, they're on the way. They're under development. Places like yours are testing these things out to deploy them. Let's tackle the bit of the 800-pound gorilla, at least in society these days, is that many people are terrified, if you will, of these massive corporate data centers and that they could potentially crash the grid. The microgrids are a way to kind of help address some of this. How does these new technologies ensure that these big corporate data centers that are out there now are being planned, they don't cause brownouts for everyday residential neighborhoods?
So, you know, a lot of the response lately, of course, and you see this all the time, is, you know, well, let's just not do it. You know, let's not build these data centers. It doesn't matter if it's a data center or manufacturing. These are all things that create jobs and they create tax revenue. So instead of saying no, these technologies allow us to say yes, and let's do it in a smarter way. And let's create, you know, like we talked about, with multiple sources. So now we can take multiple sources at a more localized level where this demand is, and manage it that way as opposed to taxing the entire distribution grid. So these technologies really allow us to work with these developers to put these projects together and bring solutions to it as opposed to just say, no, we don't want to do that.
And you guys are testing a lot of these capabilities and new technologies out at your site. And you were telling me offline, one of the reasons that you all are even here is because of the need for addressing these in isolated communities in rural parts of Colorado and the country. Talk to us a little bit more about that in terms of how these types of technologies, whether it be the battery storage or the command and control technologies or the microgrids, are going to help keep the lights on in rural Colorado.
Right. So, the general approach of the grid has been for years, which is to generate centrally and push it outward. And as you get towards the end of the line, things get less stable, they get less reliable, and that sort of thing. Our tribe alone, we have, where we're located on the end of the line, they have disruptions equaling a month and a half a year on theirs. And you can see how what that does to your everyday business, your everyday life, people with medical conditions. By going to a microgrid now, you can go remote, you bring the generation towards the load, you stabilize that local area network with the power distribution, and you create real stability and value for folks in those areas.
Yeah, and real quickly, I just want to wrap up. We were talking about as well, but there's a lot of job opportunities here, right? In terms of the folks that are going to need to power these industries. Just give us real quickly a snapshot of that.
Well, what's really important for our industry is, every job doesn't have to be a PhD, so to speak, right? So there's going to be a great demand for electricians and people who can work on these systems, operators and folks who can maintain them. And it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for our youth and people wanting to change careers to have a future that's pretty exciting. There's going to be great demand. Yeah. And we're excited about it.
This is really cool. And I tell folks sometimes these technical subjects can get a little difficult to understand, but the long and short of it, it's about reliability. And it's about using these energy advancements that give our power grid more reliability so that when we have times of stress, whether it be high heat and we need more cooling in certain parts of the metro area or rural Colorado, we have the ability to manage that better in terms of the distribution of power. So thanks so much, Dustin, for coming on the program. It's a great reminder that true energy innovation isn't just about the environment. It's about protecting our economy and ensuring everyday people don't get left in the dark. Dustin Smith, thanks so much for sharing your insights and expertise. For the 9 News Business Buzz, I'm Ryan Frazier. Have a great week.